Last year I shared a video called Dumped, Fired and Broke, and in that video I shared my absolute lowest point in life. But I also shared that I bought this cabin only 5 months later, and it was so many questions and comments on like, I'm sorry, but did you go from broke and then 5 months later you bought your dream cabin? So in this video I'm gonna share how I did it and how you can do the same. So I'm gonna go over what it costs to actually buy a place like this, show you how big the property is and how much I own, and how much renovations were made before I could move in. And how did I end up here? Why this specific place? Why the north? The process of me finding this place to moving in was a crazy experience, and it almost ended up with me losing this place. In the spring of 2017, I started to look around online actually for log cabins, and I searched for timmerhus. That's what we could say in Sweden at least. And I searched for log cabins on different sites like Blocket, Hemnet, different Facebook groups. And when I was sitting on the train back to Stockholm from my mom's 60th birthday, I think it was, I was sitting on the train just scrolling my phone and searching for log cabins. All of a sudden, this place showed up. And it just filled all of the criteria I had in my head. Like, I wanted it to be 2 floors, so it would be big enough. I wanted it to be close to water, which is just a few hundred meters that way. And we have a pond right down here as well. I wanted to be no neighbors at all. And I wanted the place to be a very old log cabin, so it needed some renovation, but I can still move in from the beginning at least. And it just had everything. So I actually sent the link to my dad, and he immediately said, like, oh, let's call the guy. And I was like, no. It's like 8 or 9 in the evening. We can't call someone now. And he's like, oh, okay, someone might buy it before you. And then 2 seconds later, he had called the guy, of course, and agreed on meeting us the next day. So from me seeing the place online till the very next day, I was here. I remember it so clearly, driving up on this land, just trying to keep a cool face and like, I should try to act a bit cool here. But as soon as I saw the pond, I saw the environment, and I just fell in love with the place immediately. I looked for a cabin for many months, and when you find it, you just know it. I can't explain the feeling, but it just is there somehow. And the property, a lot of people ask me about that as well. It's 2 hectares. That's basically 20,000 square meters. So it's shaped like a rectangle, our property. So it's very slim, but it's quite long. Don't interpret that the wrong way now. One thing I've noticed when it comes to at least Sweden and this area is that a lot of people just have houses they don't live in. We call them ödeshus. So they're just giving them up. They're still maybe paying for insurance or whatnot, but no one is living in them because they're too cheap to put up for sale. It's not that much money into it. So one good idea to look for houses like this is actually going on like local Facebook groups. If you find an area you would really love to live in, one idea could be going after Facebook group in that area and then just ask the question, hi, I'm looking for a log cabin or a house or whatever it may be. Is there anyone that is opening for selling their place? That's one way of going too. And I've known several of my friends have actually gone in different areas and knocked on doors and like, hi, your house looks amazing. Are you open to sell it? So you have to be, I wouldn't say aggressive, but at least a bit pushy sometimes, because we Swedes are a bit reserved, I would say. Before I reveal the price of this place and how I actually could afford it, we need to go into a bit of details of like, how do you choose the spot you're gonna live in? Because the reality was that when I bought this place, I actually didn't plan on living here. I bought this place as a weekend house or maybe go here on vacations and so on. But the funny thing is that I loved it so much. I was here every single weekend. As soon as I got off from work, I was just here. I spent all my hours here. And then I realized that it just came upon me like, oh, why do I don't live here? Like, I enjoy this place so much. Why not spend all of my time here? But then the big question comes of course, yeah, I understand that I want to live here, but how do I finance this place? How do I pay the bills? Because I have a work in this work and an income in the city. I need to know how to earn money there. But how do I earn money out here? There is no one. It's just me, and like 40 minutes to the closest town, and I have no idea how to earn money. So that was a big issue in the beginning of me realizing that I could live here. But I came to a breaking point where I actually just decided to move here. Best decision I've ever made. Super scary. But if you're gonna do something like this, you need to jump at some point. But choosing a place, what it come down to me, was that I needed a change in environment. First of all, like, I needed more mountains. I needed more raw nature. I just didn't want parks in a city. That wasn't forest enough for me. Just a few trees and maybe some grass. That wasn't enough. I needed, like, real forest, untouched and just mine. So that was one criteria. And I also wanted a change in mentality in the people. I'm not gonna generalize everyone here, but just a bit maybe. I've never liked the mentality of like city people. Out here, I actually know my neighbors. I know what their grandchildren are called. I know their cat's name. When we meet each other here on the big road, which is quite still small, we say hi. We stop and talk for a long time. There is like a sense of community. When I lived in the city, I had no idea who my closest neighbor were, their names. We said hi when we maybe met in the stairs, but that was it. So choosing, first of all, the environment. What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to feel like? That's important. But for me, it was also important the people. Who am I gonna live close to, and who are they? So how much did I pay for this place, and how could I actually afford it? Because in January of 2017, I had maybe $100 or $200 in my bank account, which the feeling I had was broke. I got a job that January, my first full-time job in a long time, and I was able to save up maybe $800 a month. I didn't do that much at the time. I was just working, going home, sleeping, and then repeat, just to save up as much money as I possibly could for a potential deposit for buying a place. And then when I found this place, it was listed as, I need to translate this from Swedish crowns to dollars in my head at the same time. It was around $33,000 listed as. And then when we negotiated it down to $28,000. So that's what I actually paid for the property, which is, if you think about it, a whole cabin, 2 guest houses, and a bathroom, which is basically just a sauna house, which is extremely cheap. But since then, I've done a lot of renovations, and I'm gonna talk about that a bit later in this video. I saved up, as I told you, around $800 a month for January, February, March, April, and May. In May, I bought the place, and I contacted the bank, and they were willing to give me a loan if I had a deposit of $4,000, which I exactly had. That's exactly what I have saved up for. And then when we went through the contracts, and I was like, oh, this is gonna happen, it's amazing. Then the bankman called me and explained that this is I don't know if this is the exact translation, but it's called agriculture property, I think. So it's taxated in another way, which mean I had to have a way higher deposit for myself. And I didn't. I had those $4,000, and that was it. I didn't have anything else. And he wanted $7,000 from one day to the next. And he was like, yeah, sorry, I should have noticed this before, I'm sorry. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna lose the property. I don't have this kind of money. But luckily, and I know I'm extremely fortunate in this, and not all people have it like this, I was able to make a deal with my parents. So I got help from them to pay those extra $3,000. They didn't pay me that. They lent me that money during the summer, and I had to pay them back as soon as possible, which I did. So it just took me a couple of months to pay them back. But without them, I wouldn't be able to pay this because the bank changed it from 4,000 to 7,000. And then we had a long process of signing contracts because the owners of this place was two people, one living in the US and then one living in Sweden. And there was like paperwork going back and forth, and it needs to be physical copies, and they got misplaced sometimes, and I was just... The problem is that it got dragged out over half a year, and the thing with my bank at least was that if the deal isn't made within half a year, it's not valid anymore. So all of a sudden I paid them already $7,000, and it was not on paper mine yet because the deal hadn't gone through. So it was just deposited into a black hole, and I was scared to death, not to lose the money actually, but maybe that someone else would buy my house. So there was a lot of back and forth, and I was very, very nervous for a long time. But then finally it came through. We got all the documents signed, and it was actually mine. But that half a year of all that stress of like, no, we don't know yet. Oh, we might need more money. It's not valid anymore. This needs to go through again. We need to sign the document in the US, and he needs to send it in 2 days. And nightmare. And I never want to relive that again because of all those, in my opinion, very stupid bank rules that they wouldn't budge on it either. They couldn't see that there was a person behind all this. Like that person I never want to see again. My contact at the bank, he, in my opinion, made a horrible job. Really mistreated this investment for me, and yeah, made it a horrible experience. I really hope you, if you want to make this transition one day yourself, that you have a better outcome and it's going to be easier. Before we go into the renovations of the place and how much I've actually invested into getting this livable, I need to go in to talk about how I was able to live here, because that's been a lot of questions about that. Like, yeah, I also want to jump from the city life to just living in a cabin, but how do you sustain yourself? How do you earn money? My philosophy when it comes to work is that all the money you earn doesn't need to come from one specific source. And I applied that to my own life when I moved out here, because I didn't have a job. I didn't know anyone around here. So I didn't have any contacts or anything. So what I did is that I did several different things to make somewhat of an income. It wasn't much money at all, but it was enough for me to pay for food, a bit of gas, you know, the normal stuff you need to pay, bills. And what I did two major things. Is that I wanted to get to know people that lived around here. So what I did is actually I'm a certified and educated, what do you call that in English? Running coach. I teach people how to run in nature, basically, trail running. So I started up a local running group here where we live, or close by at least. And I invited people from around the city and even reached out to a few companies and asked if they wanted to be coached by me. And that earned me some money. And I also got to know a lot of people here, which was one of the best things, I would say. And then I also luckily had still some contacts in the city where I was living before. So I did some event gigs. Basically, I was an event host. I went on retreats, conferences around the world. So I did that maybe 1 week in a month, and that earned me maybe $400, $500 a month or something. And those two combined together, running and the events, was enough for me to live here. I didn't need more. I just needed to survive, and I needed to see that it was possible. It was really rough some months, and some months I actually have, $100 over extra. But it was not until, 2 years after I moved in, I started with YouTube. That came way later. When I moved out here, I had a blog, a Swedish podcast. I didn't had that big of a following. That came way later. When I first moved here, it was livable, but it was extremely harsh. The winter of 2018 was the harshest winter for many years in Sweden. So I was just it was so cold, and the logs you see behind me on the walls, that's it. There's no insulation on the inside, there's no insulation on the outside. So if it was minus 25 on the outside, it was very cold on the inside too. So what I did the first year, I think, was to invest in new electricity. So I rewired the whole place, and that set me back 2,500-ish, materials and the work that needed to be done. And then I also installed this guy right here. We call it the luftvärmepump in Sweden, air heating system basically. So that's this doesn't run now because it's summer, so it's plenty of warm, but in the winter it's kind of nice to have that on, especially when we're not here, because if you have nothing on, all the plants, everything dies. And I experienced that my first winters, because when I wasn't here or wasn't having a fire at the same time going, everything froze. And I mean plants, deodorant, toothpaste, everything is frozen and exploded if it was in a glass jar. So I haven't had a lot of those accidents. And I also, the first thing I actually did before electricity and the air heating pump thingy is installing this stove. This one. And that was a lifesaver, I can tell you, because I can get that started and then have heating for quite a lot of hours. I think I would choose a different type if I would choose a different one today, more in like more cast iron, because now it's maybe just thin metal and glass, which looks pretty and you can see the fire, but it doesn't store the energy really well. So I would choose something different today, I think. So that was the stove. I think I paid 1,600 something. No installation. They actually dropped it off. They didn't want to drive it all the way to the cabin, and it weighs like, I think it was 95 kilos. So they dropped it off at the mailbox, which is 400 meters down that way, and it was winter. So I had to drag it through the snow, 95 kilos. I didn't have a car back then either. So I just pulled it all the way up here, carried it inside, and got a friend to come over and help me install it to, yeah, do all the piping and everything. And in the kitchen, let's see here. That is actually totally renovated. The floor is brand new. So I tore the whole place up, re-insulated, or it wasn't insulated at all actually. So I put some insulation in the floor, and new planks. They're really thick and wide. So this whole area is brand new as well. That was not there before. It didn't have a fridge or freezer at all. And this I built as well, or not me, but the person I hired to help me with this. So we built this in a few days. This is completely new, the whole thing, and I paid like 300 for the stove, I think. I'm not sure about the actual labor, what I paid for that. It was not that bad though. But just so you can get an idea what the kitchen looked like, I'm gonna take you with me in my time machine back to 2017, the same day I bought the place. I think that's the majority of the cost down here, and then I put another $10,000 on the roof with insulation, materials and everything, not including work, because I got my lovely friends to help out, so that was actually free. I paid them a bit of gas and everything to go back and forth, but nothing else. So I paid around 10,000 there, and it's still not done, so we still need a couple of dollars more to finish it. Yeah, we installed the fiber as well, and that was a big expense, but so worth it. I never thought I would be able to get fiber out here, but we actually have our little box down here. This guy. Ta-da! And it gives us super fast internet, which is kind of nice when you work as a filmmaker and a YouTuber. So now we have, speed-wise, we have 1,000 up and 1,000 down, which is way faster than I ever had when I lived in the city, which is kind of amazing. And we paid 2,200 for the installation of the fiber, and that's digging all the way here and the box and the service of itself. Then it's a monthly cost as well. And by the way, would it be interesting if I do a video that is what it costs monthly to run this place, just the bare minimum, and what we also pay extra just for luxuries and stuff? If that would be interesting, just place a comment down below, because then I can make a video like that as well. Okay, now I talked about more practical things about buying a cabin, but in reality, there's way more mental preparation that goes into it. Like buying the cabin, that's the easy part. But going for something like this, stepping out of your comfort zone, that's something completely different. Even though I have the cabin, I'm still pushing myself to grow and to learn new things. And right now I've been watching Joe Scott's class on Nebula, who is very kindly sponsoring this video. You probably heard me talk about Nebula before, but now they've launched Nebula Classes. It's a place where professional creators teach you everything from how to start your own business to overcoming anxiety. This is exactly the kind of classes I wish I had when I started my journey myself. If you already are a Nebula user, it's just a $5 upgrade, and these classes have a very high production value, and I'm already planning to do my own class. So if you have any ideas about that, please let me know in a comment. So if you also want to upgrade some of your skills from my favorite YouTubers, if you use the link down below, that will not only save you 20%, but it will also directly support me and my creative work with these videos. Because actually, for every person that signs up, it helps me to fund our future projects with this cabin. So if you are going to sign up today or have signed up before, I really want to say thank you, because it is making a major difference. As soon as you sign up for Nebula Classes, you get instant access to everything on Nebula, which means that you get access to all of my bonus content I put on Nebula. Just click the link here on the screen or the one down in my description. If you made it all the way here, I really want to say thank you for taking the time to watch this video. It means the world to me. So I really hope you have a good day, and we'll talk soon again. Bye.